All right, we are live. What's going on, everybody? I'm Charles Smith III, the host of the T-Shirt Millionaires Live Show. And today we have an amazing mindset conversation. I think that this is something that is extremely important when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And so I went through seeking out somebody who could talk to us about mindset, somebody that can help us shatter limiting beliefs and really get out of our own way. And today I have Kiara Perkins. She is the owner and the founder of Positive Scripts. And I just really look forward to going through her journey, what she talks about, what she teaches. I had a chance to really consume a lot of her content, and it resonated with me as an entrepreneur. So I look forward to having this great conversation. It's going to be extremely powerful. Make sure you stay to the end. I'm going to hit the intro, and then we'll be right back right after this. Okay, what's going on, everybody? I'm Charles Smith III, the host of the T-Shirt Millionaires Live Show. And today we have Kiara Perkins. She is the owner and founder of Positive Scripts. Kiara, feel free to let the people know who you are and what you do.
Yes, that's such an awesome intro. So thank you so much for having me on the show, first of all. So I just wanted to let everyone understand, first of all, like where the word positive or the term positive scripts came from. So my background's in mental health. And so I was trained to be a marriage and family therapist. And I was working with children. I worked with families. And what I found through that time I was working with the families and the children is that I love kids. They're so much fun and they are so like ready and willing to change and transform. But where the difficulties were was with the parents. And so the parents, not only like do they have relationship issues, but they would also have just self-esteem issues. And when all that stuff is combined with you not being fulfilled in your work, it's just like a recipe for disaster. And so I realized I don't need to change the children because the children will thrive and flourish so much more easily than the parents. So I started shifting my focus to how do I get these parents to really just like embrace change and not look at it like, oh, just the child has a problem, because it's never just the child. It's like a holistic view of like the family systems and the dynamics. And so I feel like if we can get the parents, then that's like cutting it off, like all the problems off at the root. Mm-hmm. So my focus started turning towards adults. Mm-hmm. And then what I found is that a lot of adults tend to want to just complain a lot. And mm-hmm. I'm all for, getting help and medications if you need that. But I think a lot of the issues with depression and anxiety really stem from feeling unfulfilled in your life. And so much of our life is centered around work. And so for me, like I realized, like, especially during COVID, when that whole shutdown happened, I don't know about you and your audience, but I was like thrilled because I realized I really am super passionate about feeling purposeful. And for me, I feel like my purpose truly is transforming the mental health industry. That's a very big dream, but it's always been like, ever since I was probably 4, it's always been a big goal of mine to like just revolutionize the mental health industry. Because I think right now we're focusing so much on the negative aspects of it and the illness aspect. And we're not focusing enough on maintaining wellness and balance and wholeness. And so one day I just, I had my son and I was in the nursing mother's room and I was pumping and I was like really upset that I had to even go back to work, first of all. And then I was thinking, I want to just do my own thing because I don't want to follow this traditional medical model of how to help people. I want to just try a different approach of, let's see what lights you up and like, let's just fuel that fire. Because once you have a purpose, you're on it. Like you're just happier and more fulfilled. And I think that's going to have a trickle down effect with the families. And so I was in the nursing mother's room pumping and I just started getting really into business books and like marketing. Yeah. And then next thing you know, different ideas just started flowing into my mind left and right. And I feel like this was like the Holy Spirit, like God just talking to me saying, okay, Kiara, you know what? We need to look at this, like really look at this in this society. So I started doing some more research and I discovered this quote from it's a Native American proverb. And it said, those who tell the stories rule the world. And I realized at that point, like, everything we do in life is a story. So this idea that you have to work a 9 to 5 is a story. This idea we only get 12 weeks off for maternity leave is a story. And we keep following these stories and perpetuating these stories because people tell us, well, that's the way it's always been done. And so I feel like, what would happen if we decided to take a different approach? And instead of saying that's just the way it's always been done, what if we say, I'm going to write my own story and I'm going to start something new and I'm going to have a different life experience? And so I can't stand boxes. I can't stand people saying things like, oh, status quo. We have to, fit in this certain mold, because I feel like there is no mold except the one that resonates with you personally as an individual. And so, there's so much I can say about this, but I really truly feel like a lot of the mental health problems that we have in this society is really just from people trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like we aren't all meant to be cookie cutter replicas of the generation before us. And, people try to demonize the new generation, like, oh, those kids need to learn how to do it. But really, I feel like maybe they're teaching us how we can change and evolve in society. And so so I started putting together my program because I had a lot of ideas, like I was saying, and I didn't know how to actually package it and make it a cohesive thing, like a program that people can follow, because I didn't want to do mental health counseling. Like, the traditional model would have you be in therapy for years and you're just constantly talking about problems and how your mom messed you up. And that's valid. But I think at a certain point, we have to shift the conversation back from how you were disempowered and disadvantaged to how can you now step into your power? Like, all that stuff happened. I understand, but we're here now. And so now that we're here, what next? So one of my favorite things to say is, so what? That stuff happened, but so what? What now? So that's really what I wanted to focus on. And so I started putting together the pieces to my program. And as it was coming together, I didn't have a name for the longest time. And so I was going through a divorce at this point because my ex and I were having a lot of issues. And I was really leveling up once I had my son. And at that point, I think my ex was getting a little bit like, when you shake up that dynamic, sometimes relationships tend to go one way or the other. Like, you either get really close or you become, distance. And so for me, we became more distance. And he eventually, he had some mental health issues going on with himself, but we had a lot of problems in our relationship. And he was calling me all kinds of names. Like, he actually at one point was calling me Lucifer and saying I was a parasite. It was really bad. And at one point I was even questioning, like, why am I alive? And then, so we had so many problems that I was thinking, I can't be a coach. I don't have anything to teach anybody, even though I have these degrees, mind you. And then at one point, though, we were having a really bad argument and I was feeling really down. And then he kept saying things like, who are you? Like, who are you to basically do anything? And I was telling him, like, I don't know where this started coming from, but I started speaking affirmations out loud. And I was saying things like, I am love, I am light, I am amazing. And then at that point, something like really spiritual happened to me. And I felt like this powerful force come over me. And I think at that moment, I had my spiritual awakening. Like, I felt like this enormous clarity and power, and not in a controlling, powerful way, but like an all knowing, like I just knew everything. And I felt like unlimited. And I was like, this is who I am. I am unlimited and no one can tell me differently. And so in that moment, I was literally having my rewriting of my own script. And I realized I'm more than just a mother. I'm more than just a Black female living in the United States. I'm more than just this name. I'm whatever can say I want to be. And so a lot of my program focuses on your identity, because when you don't know yourself, you're way more likely to settle for jobs you don't like, relationships that don't serve you, different things that people tell you have to do. You start to think, okay, that's what I have to do because they're telling me I have to do it. But when you know yourself, then you're able to set firm boundaries and you're able to, pursue things that really matter to you. And you're really willing to put an end to that self-sabotage. And that self-sabotage comes in so many different ways. It could be even just like eating too much when you're not even hungry. It can manifest in so many different ways that I just feel like, this program, it's more than just coaching. It's more than just 6 weeks or 12 weeks of, you learning some slides. It's a complete transformation from the inside out. And when you transform yourself, you end up reflecting that back to everyone else, and then they treat you so much differently. So what came to me is the name of my program. I decided to call it the Bulletproof Goddess Bootcamp, because I realized that we all have a god and goddess within ourselves. And all you have to do is really tap into that and activate that. And once you do, you then shine a light that becomes so powerful that people can't help but just either like fall in line and respect you and love you the way you love yourself, or they will fall back and just, leave your life. And so that's pretty much what happened with me and my ex. Like, he basically just left, and we didn't have a very chaotic exit. Like, there was no throwing things, cursing. It wasn't even like that. It was just like, well, Kiara, it's obvious that this relationship is over. And then he just left. And I was like, thank God, because I didn't want to deal with the drama of going back and forth and custody battles and all that stuff. But he was just like, well, you know what? It's clear you're not here anymore with this relationship. So yeah, so that's like basically my whole life story was like, I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how to do it beyond just the books. But once I had my own life situations, and then I really started to truly understand like what true transformation is all about.
Extremely powerful, Kiara. And it's just amazing to see where you came from your professional background, but how you hit this, road bump in your marriage and your life, right? And you sought some type of transformation and started taking steps to get to where you are right now, and then also be in a capacity to where you're helping other people. So there's a lot that you spoke that really stood out to me. And one of the first things was you spoke about not accepting life how it is, not putting ourselves in a box. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, that is a big part of what entrepreneurs do. They see a void in the world. They're not okay with the status quo, and they go out to try to change it and provide solutions and solve problems. But when you were at your lowest point, right, and you talked about really speaking those affirmations, what are some of those other steps that you did, right, to be able to make that transformation? What did you do these things daily? Kind of walk us through some of those steps that you took.
Yeah, so back in, I would say 2016, maybe 2017, I started getting really into meditation. And for me at that time, it was like a big taboo subject because I was raised Jehovah's Witness. And so in that religion, they're very much like, there's only one way to God, and that's through this person or these people. And so for me, growing up, I was taught that meditation, like yoga, anything that would have you like in a spiritual realm was completely evil and like demonic. And so I was really hesitant to get into that. But when I was 26, like in 2009, I decided to stop being in that religion, and I just found my own way, basically. And so I started getting into a lot of different spiritual paths because I was thinking I want to have connection to, the universe and all that, but I don't know how to do it. And so I was looking into all kinds of different things like Buddhism and, just random things. And so one day I discovered Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you're familiar.
I'm absolutely familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. So Abraham was talking a lot about meditation and just quieting your mind. And I was like, that doesn't sound so demonic. Let me just give it a try. And so I started doing that. And when I was meditating, I started feeling a little bit better. But I realized like there's probably some more things I have to do because just meditating is just meditating. But so then I started looking into affirmations. And the affirmations are really interesting because it's easy to say something like, I am abundant, but there's really no power behind it. And so what I started doing with my program was I really taught people how to make yourself kind of like soil. So when you have soil, or when you want to, like, say you want to plant like corn, for example, you don't just throw the seed on the ground. Like you have to till the soil and like dig it up and make sure it's rich with minerals. And then you plant the seed, and you have to like wait some time for it to grow. And so the thing is about affirmations is your psyche, your subconscious is the same way. So you can't just throw an affirmation at yourself and be like, oh, I'm abundant because I said I am. If it works that simply, then everyone would just be rolling in millions, Right. So the thing is, what I want to focus on in this program is how do you make yourself more fertile? how do you make your mindset more fertile to be able to receive those affirmations and actually have it take root so that way it can blossom. And so I have a program that I actually created in a freebie that I offer. And it's a 3-step process. It's really simple. If you want me to go through it, I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the 3-step process is pretty easy. The first thing you have to do is before you even start the affirmations, you have to acknowledge that there's an issue that you want to work on. So for me, like, for example, if I say I'm really poor and I really want to make a lot of money. So I would say, okay, first acknowledge where you are. Like, I acknowledge that I'm very poor, or I'm in a lot of debt, and I want to make more money. So I'm owning the fact that this is my situation, because a lot of times, unfortunately, people try to deny the problem. And when you deny it, the more you fight it. Like, there's this saying, what you resist persists. And so the first thing you want to do is stop resisting. Stop resisting the presence of the issue, because now you're going to face it. You're going to look at it head on and stop avoiding the problem. So the first thing is acknowledge. So it's the AST model. That's what I call it. So the first step is acknowledge the problem. And the second step is S is for soothing. So what I mean by soothing is you want to, like, when you're a kid and the kids suck their thumbs, or they'll find like their most comfortable blanket, anything you can do to soothe yourself, like get into like a more peaceful state of mind. So it can be meditation. It could be just, going to the beach, putting your feet in the sand, sitting out in nature, anything to get you like in a good state of mind. Because if you're stressed or fearful or doubtful, none of this is going to work. Right. But when you're feeling relaxed and peaceful, what happens is you become more receptive to suggestions that are going to serve you. So the second step, soothing. And I have a process, like you can go through some of my scripts and you can see like some examples of how to soothe yourself. Yeah. And then the third step is thank. So once you've soothed yourself by telling that new story, then the last step is you want to thank yourself. And so when you thank yourself, what you're doing is you're acknowledging, like, I know this is a process, but I'm going to get better and better at this. And so you're building your self-esteem, you're building your confidence, you're building your sense of worthiness, and all of those things combined, it now makes you more receptive to implant this new, I call it reprogramming, but you're allowed to now reprogram yourself and give yourself a new belief that can serve you, rather than constantly carrying, for years, baggage and old stories that don't serve you, because they may have been in your household, or they may have been generational curses, as we call them. Yeah. But they don't have to stay that way. You can really let go. And this is a process that I created to just let go and let God.
Right. No, I love it. I love it. And, I'm really a big fan of meditation and affirmations. One of the big things that I say when I hit my rock bottom, Kiara, I left my job, I hit rock bottom, lost everything. And in the midst of those times, all I really could do is kind of cultivate this inner world. I would affirm things to myself. I would create these visions within myself. As I look back, I'm like, wow, so many things fell into place over time. So I'm really a big believer, and I really love what you're talking about as far as like reprogramming yourself. But tell me this, you talked about changing your beliefs, right? I saw in one of your videos, you talked about when people have limiting beliefs, right? They show up in different ways. If you have different types of thoughts, you may have a limiting belief. Can you go further into that and kind of, ways limiting beliefs show up?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny you say that, because even like in my 9-to-5 job, I sometimes overhear people talking and I'm like, wow, the beliefs that are so limiting right now are so obvious, but people will just say it as though, oh, that's just the way it is. That's just facts. Right. But facts are so, like, what is the word? Transient, maybe. Yeah. Like, you can find facts to support any belief. Wow. And so I feel like, when people say things like, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur because I have children. Like, come on now. There's tons of people, and you can find these facts. There's facts to support, entrepreneurs who do have children who have become very successful. And then people might say things like, oh, well, I can't be an entrepreneur because I don't have money. And there's tons of people who, once again, don't need money to get started. And so these limiting beliefs and these forms of procrastination, or, even like the way you feel in your body, like when you say, oh, I can't start a business because I'm always tired. Then it's like, maybe the reason why you're tired is because you're not lit up, because you're not doing things that fulfill you. And so that was one of the things that I saw in my work as a counselor, like way back in the day. There was this one girl in particular I was working with. She was like 7 and she was super on board, like super excited all the time. And when I would go to talk to her mom was like halfway paying attention. She had a baby on her hip and she was just so tired and exhausted, like constantly. And I remember asking her, like, so when are you going to be in the session? And she was like, oh, I can't do sessions with my daughter. And I said, why? And she said, because I'm just, I'm tired because I work all day. And I remember thinking like, wow, if you just realize, like, just give it a chance, like, I think if you're really totally scared of getting started, just take one step. Just take one step and see what happens, because you never know, like, especially if it's something you're passionate about. Like, I'm sure you're passionate about t-shirts, but not just the shirt, it's what it means, what it represents, and the story behind the shirts. So if you can get behind that purpose and that bigger meaning, then you might find that you'll be very lit up, and to the point where you won't even be tired. I think in one of my videos I had said, like, I think it was on Sunday morning, and I had gotten like 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and my son woke me up because he just loves to come in my room and open the door, and he's 2, but he figured it out. And so that morning I was like, oh man, I wanted to do videos today, but I'm going to be too tired. I was already starting to tell myself stories like I'm going to be too tired. But what I decided was, you know what, let me just try it anyway. And so I set up my camera, and then I had my son watching his Blippi TV shows because he loves Blippi. And once I started talking, I'm telling you, my tiredness went out the window, and I was like fired up, and I was like, without any coffee or, nothing to like hype me up, like no energy drinks. And I was like, wow, this is how you're on the right track, is if you're interested in something, just give it a shot, because no one is going to stop you except yourself. And then granted, I know how hard it can be because I have a son, I'm a single mom. But at the same time, it's like, give yourself that gift of being lit up. Give yourself that gift of being happy and fulfilled. And you might look like a workaholic to other people, but they don't know. They don't know what's in your heart. They don't know what's in your spirit when you're working on this thing. And so if you love yourself enough, you will do it. You will do it. And if you have issues, that's where I come in.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. I love it. I think I kind of talk about it as well. Like when I was in corporate, there was different energy that I worked from where I am now and then where I was then. And so back then it used to be kind of like this willpower that I had to just kind of, create within myself to just push and make it work. Yeah. But now these days, me being in a place and doing things that I love, is this energy that pushes me. Right?
Yes.
It's so different. You know what I'm saying?
That is so real. Yeah. And that's exactly how you're on the right path, because a lot of people struggle sometimes because they think, oh, what's my calling? Like, I need God to just give me a sign that says, this huge flashing banner that says, this is your purpose, go follow it. Right. But that purpose, that sign from God is spoken to you through your emotions. Wow. And so when you are lit up like that, that's God's way of saying, hello, this is what you need to be doing. So keep going. And when you do that, what happens is that those moments lead to more and more synchronicity. And then you start to have things coming at you left and right. Like, for example, you posted in this group that we both are in that you're looking for somebody. And I just happened to see that post. Was it a coincidence, or was it because, something is now pushing me, because I don't have to struggle to make this work because I feel like this is my purpose. Whereas at my job, if I'm tired and like exhausted, it's because that's not my purpose, like it might pay the bills, but I have to honor myself enough to say, hey, these trails, these breadcrumbs that are coming, it's because they're along the lines of your purpose. And if you don't feel any breadcrumbs or, that spark, it's because that's not your path. So you can make it hard, but life can be so much easier when you go with the flow of your purpose and follow that spark of interest and passion and, curiosity, and just keep going and take one step after the next and after the next. And
I love that.
You're where you are.
So Kiara, are you saying, because first off, I love what you said, you pay attention to your emotions, and when you find those things that light you up,
Yeah.
It's almost God speaking to you or giving you a sign saying, okay, you should be doing more of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. So with that being said, you talked about flow, right? So I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that come to people a lot of the times, but maybe they don't see it, right? Maybe they don't even notice it. What are some things people can do to get into that flow state, right? To make things easier on themselves? Can they do something? And then the other thing to kind of couple with that question, for the people who are kind of haven't found that passion yet, are there things they can do to start identifying that passion, right? And kind of search it and locate it? What can they do?
Yeah. So I'll answer that second part first.
Yeah.
So what I tend to focus on in my coaching program is helping women who are already aware of their passions and they just need help getting over those limiting beliefs. But I will say this as well. Self-awareness is like 100% key to being an entrepreneur. I'm sure you know this as well. Like I know Gary Vee talks a lot about this too. Like knowing who you are is more than half the battle, because when you know who you are, you know what times of the day you're most productive. You know how much sleep you need per day. You know how much rest, like how much water you need to drink, what kind of foods make you feel good. So, and that's on the physical level. And then you have, like, of course, the spiritual side, which is, pay attention to what interests you have. Like, so if you don't know what your passion is, for example, I would just say, start at the most basic level, like literally just try everything you can. And if you can't physically try them, then just do a lot of reading, like research different ideas that might light you up. So like, for example, if you're in school, I'm sure you had at least one subject that made you feel a little bit more interested than others. So that's a good place to start, is like school. And then just different conversations you might have with friends or family, and different forums you might find yourself in, or different Facebook groups, for example. So whatever your interests are, those are probably clues to what you might want to do. And sometimes, like, to be real, there might not actually be a clear path or like a clear job per se. And so that's where you get really creative, and you can really create the lifestyle that works for you. And I know it might seem scary, because if you don't have a blueprint, then it might be like, oh, that's not possible. I can't possibly make money this way. Right. But you'd be surprised. Like, you really just got to give it a chance. Like, there's this guy that he created a business on how to jump higher, basically. So like, if you're playing basketball, you want to learn how to jump higher. This man created a multi-million-dollar business on how to jump, for crying out loud. So it's like,
crazy.
There is no limit except the one, between your ears. That's the only limit you have.
I love it.
So, and your second question, how to find flow, it's exactly like I was saying. Just following the breadcrumbs is so important, and we cannot underestimate the power of that. So like, if you're tired and you feel like, oh, I don't think I have time to work my business, just try something. Like, even if it's a really small task, just do that one small task. And what you might find is that you want to keep going. So like, give yourself 5 minutes. Like, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. Right. Next thing you know, that 5 minutes can turn into like 2 hours. Right. And if you have other obligations, then you want to, of course, tend to those other obligations. But just getting started is what gives you that momentum. And it's kind of like that snowball effect. So all you got to do is start that, or the domino effect. You just got to hit that first domino, and then the whole thing starts to, cascade. Amazing. So you just got to, get that first domino hit, and then you'll be fine.
Y'all get that first domino hit, right? Get it hit, right? Try to be consistent with it and let those dominoes fall over time. I think that's extremely powerful. So I have a question about money, Kiara. So what do you say to the person who they want to make money, right? They want to make a lot of money, right? They're in business. They want it to grow. But sometimes they feel like they're not worth the money. They feel like maybe there's prices that they're scared to charge people. Or is it possible for me to be able to build something this big that could generate this amount of money? I find that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle with that. What would you tell that type of person who's dealing with that issue?
Yeah. So I would just say, well, first of all, I think it depends on your business approach. So if you're a coach, for example, this is what I had to tell myself in the beginning too. If you're a coach and you have a service, or a consultant, if you have a service, I think, to be honest, you're doing somebody a disservice if you're charging peanuts. And not just yourself, but let me explain. So when you are like for example, at the store, and you want to buy like, a pair of shoes, and you go to the pair of shoes that's $9, or you go to the pair of shoes that's $90, or $900 even. Like look at Kanye West. So these types of mentalities are, I'm going to just, try to get by. And I don't really seem to care much about these shoes. I'm going to pay $9 because you don't care about those shoes. You're going to walk all through the mud in those shoes. You're not really going to take care of them. But if you have Kanye shoes that are $900, you're going to treat those way better than those $9 shoes. You're going to, buff them out every night. You're probably going to put them in a special case. You might not even wear them because you're like, these are so valuable, and I'm willing to pay that because of what it means for me, and what that story might be behind those shoes. And people are going to look at me and say, wow, that person's made it. They're successful. So it's the same thing with your program. Are people going to know that they've made it? They've had that transformation or achieved that result if you charge $4 for your coaching program, or if you charge $4,000 for your coaching program. I'm not saying you're guaranteed to always get results with every client because everyone's different, but there's this saying that those who pay attention. And I think, as money is an energy exchange, then that goes beyond just the dollar value. It goes into the mindset, the amount of dedication and commitment people will have to that program. And so by you charging more money, you're giving them the permission basically to truly transform, not just dabble, but like go all in and say, okay, I'm committed to this because I got more skin in the game. And so I think, you can make more money and they can spend more money, but they're going to actually be committed to the results. And so it's a win-win situation in my opinion.
Powerful. You just mentioned something, and I want to see if you can just kind of expound on that a little bit. So you said that money is an energy exchange, and I've heard that a lot. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means? I've heard even just like the saying, money is just energy. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, for example, there was this guy, I listened to his podcast a lot. His name is Russell Brunson. And he was talking one time about how there's apparently this website out there. I don't even know what the name is, but you can probably Google it and find it. But there's a website where they contain all the courses you can imagine from like the big names. Like you can just get the logins for free and like just have access to all these courses. And so one day someone brought that to Russell Brunson's attention, and he was like, they were like really worried, like, oh my gosh, all these courses are out there. People are going to start losing money. But what Russell said was he has not seen any loss in income or revenue, and all these other people as well. They haven't seen a drop off in their business. And the reason why is because those people, even though they might have access because they want to get something for free, right? So people might go on those websites to get those courses for free, but how many people who do that are actually taking action and implementing and executing and following through? So I don't know the statistics on that, but I would venture to say most people who try to find things for free and get a break or a deal, they're not going to be as nearly as invested as someone who's actually put forth the time and the effort. So this is the energy factor. If you're not willing to put in the energy to invest in like the truest sense, and you're trying to just like, cut some corners, that's all energy. And so your energy when you're trying to cut corners is you're basically like the scammer, and that's what you're going to receive back. You're going to receive back people who don't want to pay you for your services. And you're going to receive, probably constant complaints and, refund requests because you are trying to kind of, you're not living in integrity. But when you're walking in integrity and you're exuding this energy of, I am, going to do things by the book. And you're going to also meet people who are on that same wavelength, who want to, give fair value and receive fair value. And so this whole world is just, based on energy. And so your vibe attracts your tribe. And so if you want to have the vibe of scammers coming to you, then by all means, continue to try to, find those free courses and get those cheat codes and downloads and all that stuff. But if you want to have, like a legit business with people who actually respect you and your brand, then you have to also be someone who's respectable towards others.
Wow. I think that's amazing. And, we have a whole audience of like t-shirt brand owners, and they build stores and they create designs, right? And we do a lot of e-commerce. And, what I'm hearing is it's about the time, the energy that you put into it, having integrity, giving good customer service, not really just, halfway in it and creating something that just doesn't really look good, but really, putting your heart and soul to it. And when you do that, it comes back. So I think that's extremely amazing. That's a powerful concept. Now, what I want to talk about now, Kiara, is what would you say to the person who they have this vision? They're believing, they want to grow, they want to build this big thing, but time just hasn't caught up yet, right? Maybe it takes some time and then they get to a place to where they doubt and they kind of, wonder if they're on the right path, right? What do you tell to that type of person as they're going along their journey?
I would say, welcome to the club. But no, like seriously, there's this phrase that somebody coined, I don't remember who, but they said, new level, new devil.
Wow.
So I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we don't have some form of like self-doubt or, roadblocks, and the roadblocks can be totally just all mental. Right. There's probably never going to be a time where that happens, but this is where the fun part of being an entrepreneur comes in. This is where you get to tap into your inner strength and your empowerment and say, okay, you know what? The very fact that I have this as an interest tells me that there's something bigger going on here. And I have to listen to that bigger thing, because it's just like, do you remember the Rocky movies? Mm-hmm. So in the first Rocky movie, I think it was probably the fourth one, when, it was the fourth one, when he was about to go to Russia, and then his wife, Adrian, was like, why don't you just, retire? Because this Russian guy is super big and he's going to like probably kill you. Right. And so he was like, it's in my blood, Adrian. And she's like, you can't win. But he was like, even though she kept saying those things to him, he knew deep in his heart, like, he's a fighter and he has to fight, and he's a warrior. And that's just like in his DNA. And so I feel like if it's something that's truly powerful and like, passionate for you, it's in your DNA for a reason. And that's because you are meant to do it. And of course, people around you are going to tell you you can't do it, because look at their lives. They probably haven't done it. Like, no disrespect to anyone's family or friends, because they all have their place and they're probably very supportive in many ways. But most people are too afraid to go after the big dreams because they feel like there's too many roadblocks. There's too much evidence to the contrary. There's too many, stories that have been telling themselves. And there's so much negativity, frankly, and fear of judgment and rejection. And when you compile all those things together, it's no wonder they're going to try to protect you by saying things like, oh, don't do that, because if you do that, bad things are going to happen. And they might, if you listen to them, but I can guarantee you, if you just keep going, nothing is going to stop you. Like, I mean, I wish I could just give everyone permission in this world to just be themselves. But I truly believe that, like, when you know yourself and you love yourself, you are going to do what it means to be you. You're going to be yourself. And when you be yourself, others are going to see that. And I think truly that's what makes you the lighthouse, that makes you more of like an inspiration to other people, to give them permission to do the same thing. So when people tell me like, oh, Kiara, you have a son, you have to, just stick with your job. When they tell me that, I'm not going to lie. It did kind of bother me at first, like when my family would say things like that. But then I realized they don't mean harm. They just want the best for me. And what they don't quite know yet is that this is the best for me, because this is me. This is who I am. And so for me to be anything less than who I am would mean I'm not going to be a good mom to my son. And I'm not going to be a good woman to society, because I'm going to be a shell of myself. I'm going to be a much smaller version of me. And my goal and my purpose on this planet is to be the fullest version of me possible. And I want to inspire others to be that as well. And I think the best way you teach is through your example. So what better way to teach than just to live it,
I love it. I love it. I think that's extremely amazing. And, you talked about lighthouse, right? And you talked about lighthouse. Do you think everybody is meant to be a light to shine? Tell me about that.
So this might be controversial, because some people don't believe this, but I personally think that if you are living and breathing on this planet as a human being, you are here for a reason. Wow. And it's not to say you're meant to be an entrepreneur per se, but I do believe that everyone has their version of a lighthouse. Like Mother Teresa, for example, she was a lighthouse. Martin Luther King Jr. was a lighthouse. You are a lighthouse. I'm a lighthouse. The person down the street is a lighthouse, and they might be lighthouses in disguise. Maybe they don't know yet, but I feel like we got to dust off those layers and peel back the onion layers to really get to that core of yourself, because that core is really shining. And sometimes, when we feel tired and, overwhelmed and depressed, it's because those layers and that dust is just caking up, and if you peel back the layers and give yourself permission to really shine, what could be possible? And so I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago about this. Like, I truly believe that like wars would be non-existent if people really gave themselves permission to be their full self. Because I don't think anybody was born saying, I want to see how bad I can mess up this world. Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think people are meant, here intentionally trying to screw up this planet. I think it's just, a lot of things have happened over time and they feel like, I can't do it. It's not possible. But I really just think, what would be possible in this society if everyone knew their gifts and gave themselves permission to achieve them? I really wonder.
Amazing. Now, I wonder too. I think that's a great question to ask, right? I think there'll be a lot of powerful things going on. And one thing that I always say is, I feel like when people aren't operating in their gifts, you're other people out there could be using what you have, but you're not giving them a chance to improve their life because you're not operating, right? And so I almost feel like it's somewhat of a responsibility to kind of identify that and utilize it. So I think that's extremely powerful. I love all of that.
Yeah. And you know what, Charles, that's actually a really good point about how to overcome imposter syndrome, because people might think, oh, there's already somebody who's doing that. Like, I'm sure there's already somebody who's doing what you're doing, like selling t-shirts.
Right.
But it's not about the t-shirts. Like I was saying, that's just the physical evidence, that the product, but who you are, your spirit, your aura, that is unrepeatable. You are a unique person. Like, there is no Charles Smith III anywhere in the past or the future. And so you have your platform because you are meant to reach people in the way you are meant to reach them. And no one else can do it like you. And so, like you said, the responsibility, I really truly feel that same way. Like, I have an obligation, and this is almost like it's bigger than just me. And once you feel that way, like this universal like obligation to humankind, it's like you can't help but stop. I mean, like, not stop. You can't help but keep going. And that's where the imposter syndrome is like, yeah, but so what? I'm going to keep going anyway, because this is, not only is it fun and interesting, but I really feel like people need this. And when you get that feedback from your audience, it's like, wow, I really did help them. And what would have happened if you stayed in your corporate job? And what would have happened if you just said, I'm going to let this self-doubt beat me, and just, become a shell of myself and cower, what would happen if you never became t-shirt millionaires?
Right. That's amazing. I love it. I think for everybody watching, I love what Kiara just mentioned, right? And she talked about you having your own DNA. You have your way of putting things together that nobody else can do. And for your t-shirt design, this is something I think I heard in your video too, Kiara. I think you mentioned somebody, if you feel like it's too saturated out there, that is a limiting belief. Yeah. And when you get out of that mindset and say, I'm going to create this t-shirt brand, I'm going to put my own unique stamp, I'm going to put my ideas into it. Nobody else is going to be able to have that brand like you. They're not going to have the message like you. And therefore, when you operate in that level, that's when you will succeed. So that whole shift, I love how you say, I think that's amazing. And I want everybody to really take that into consideration. Now, one thing I want to ask you, Kiara, is for entrepreneurs, I've read this book. It's called Miracle Morning. I forget who wrote it, Hal Elrod. But what are ways that I feel like morning are my power hours? That's how I start my day. But what are good ways for entrepreneurs to start off their day? Or what ways do you start off your day? How can we optimize for the first few hours we wake up?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I first started really getting into my own personal like transformation, it was a little bit hard because I had a person, my ex, who was like constantly, there, and it was a little bit difficult. So I'm not going to lie. So if any of you are having problems with people that you might be living with, I can relate. But what I had to do is I had to stop and say to myself, okay, Kiara, you need to prioritize your development, your personal development, because nothing will change unless you change. And so I realized I've got a son now, and my son is watching me. And so what I had to do is I had to become very deliberate on my time and what I was doing with my time. So I started to keep track of, okay, why am I watching this TV show? How is it benefiting me? And if it was benefiting me, which probably it wasn't, then I would have kept watching. But what I found is that most things I was watching wasn't helping. And same thing with the mornings. Like I used to hit snooze or like wake up at the very last minute, and then I'd have to be rushing to get, my stuff ready for work. And so what I started to do is I woke up earlier and I did meditation for like 15 minutes, maybe 20. And then after that, I started writing out, just scripting. What would my ideal life look like if money wasn't an issue, if I had the best relationship, or if I didn't have a relationship, what would my ideal version of Kiara look like? And what would my ideal life look like?
Right.
And then I started thinking like it was more expansive thinking and more possibilities oriented. And so all of that daydreaming and the visualization, that's when I started receiving, like, I call them downloads. Like, so different ideas would just pop into my mind. And then when the downloads would come, I'll start noticing the synchronicities of like Facebook posts and different people commenting on things. And that was how I started getting my, my audience built. It was like things were just coming out of the woodwork, almost like magic. And so that's the miracle part of this miracle morning. It's not just the morning, but it's like when you start in the morning, it sets you up for success for the rest of the day so that you're more receptive to all the random blessings that you can't even orchestrate. It's like, this is where like the supernatural stuff starts coming in, where it's like, wow, if I hadn't done that Facebook post, then this wouldn't have happened. And if this didn't happen, then that wouldn't have happened. It's like all because I gave myself the discipline, first of all, to really focus on what's the most important thing for me, which is getting into that magical place. And for you, maybe it's not meditation. Maybe it's like you need to listen to some really cool music in the morning and just, pump yourself up and get into that best mood.
I love it. I love it. I think it's extremely amazing. And I love the part where you talked about like kind of writing out your ideal life, right? I don't think I can't say I don't think many, but I think that's a powerful tool to just kind of see exactly what that looks like. And then it's funny, I've been listening to this book. I listened to it this morning. It's called Feeling is the Secret as well by Neville Goddard. And, he kind of talked about like figuring out what that vision is, but then also like feeling, what does it feel like? And I heard you kind of say something very similar, right? So I love that. I think that's amazing. Really quick, I just wanted to give a big shout out to K Bruce. K Bruce sent in a super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Truly appreciate that. He said, everyone is a lighthouse in their own way. This is it. I launched my t-shirt to brand today, and I needed this encouragement. So many blessings to you, K Bruce. Thank you so much. And congratulations on launching and putting your intention out there, right? And building from your own unique space. So I love it. So with that being said, Kiara, I know we're getting close to our time. So one of the last questions that I want to ask you is, what is your message to the world? What is your message and what is your true purpose for being here?
Wow. So my message for Positive Scripts is change your script, change your life. But I feel like for me, what my purpose really is, and I had this moment where I was like, tapping into my higher self. My purpose is to help everyone understand what true love is, because my whole life I've been looking for like Mr. Right, and like my soulmate. And I thought the love was going to come from another person. But really, like, I discovered that true love is genuinely being yourself, your fullest version of yourself. And so that's my purpose, is like helping people become their fullest versions of themselves. Amazing. And I will get to the grave. That's my dying mission.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been extremely amazing, Kiara. Like, I wanted this conversation. Like I said, I felt before we had the conversation, I was just like, what she talks about resonates with me, right? And as I'm going through and looking at all the comments, like we've got so many just like great comments, right? So I'm so appreciative of you sharing, of you walking in your gift, of you sharing your spirit and your heart with us. And, everybody that's an entrepreneur, I think that these are all tactics, but then just also just mindset shifts that you can make to take things to the next level. So with that being said, how can people find you, Kiara, if they want to look you up? I know you talked about a free guide or something before. How can people find you?
Yeah, so the best way is my Instagram. It's at Positive Steps Official. And if you go into the link in bio, I have a few resources, and one of them is my freebie, How to Reprogram Limiting Beliefs. And so if you click on the link, you can just put in your email, and then you'll get the freebie sent to you. And it's about 10 pages long, but it's just a 3-step process, super simple. It's to help you basically make those affirmations take root in your subconscious.
Awesome. So y'all make sure y'all go get that. And you go to Positive Scripts. You can also find Kiara on Instagram, Positive Scripts Official. And Kiara, this has been extremely amazing. I truly appreciate you sharing your time. And we'll definitely be in touch in a second. All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. I love that. I hope y'all loved it as well. That was an amazing conversation. We went a different place today, right? A lot of the times it's around t-shirts, but from my own personal experience, I know how much mindset and being aligned, really plays a part in succeeding as we're going on this entrepreneur journey. And I love one thing that Kiara talked about. She talked about how she gets inspired and receives downloads, right? And I believe that when you're in that magical space that she talked about, when you're aligned, when you're speaking positivity, when you're writing out your future, you are allowing those ideas to come to you, whether it's a new t-shirt design, whether it's a post, whether it's a marketing campaign. I can honestly say from some of the big windfalls that I've gotten throughout my entrepreneur journey, they came from when I was aligned and those ideas and downloads came. And so I'm so appreciative of her coming and sharing. I hope that you all got a lot from this. Remember what I say, learning or repetition is the father of learning. Getting my words all mixed up. Repetition is the father of learning. So if you got something from this, go back and listen to it again. When you go to work, when you go to the grocery store, when you're just chilling and got some downtime, listen to this again, because she dropped a lot of, I wouldn't even say she dropped knowledge, but she dropped a lot of wisdom on us today. All right. So with that being said, y'all, I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this show. Share it with your mama, your grandmama, your brother, your sister, your friend. Put it in a Facebook group. Share this, because this is what I try to do every week, is bring the best people to the show to help us grow and develop. So I'm going to end it at that. As I always say, if you can see it in your mind's eye, one day you're going to be able to see it with your real eyes. We manifesting stuff this year, man. Many blessings. Peace. I'll talk to y'all soon, man. Have a great evening.